Hello, I want to bring up something that I've noticed about a theory in science nowadays. It's called the M theory. And basically, it's the idea of parallel universes. But it seems that some people, or a bunch of people, are taking this to mean that there is no God somehow. They don't, I mean, and I realized something about this theory that actually it is a God theory. It really is. It's directly saying that there is a God. Um, Let me try to give an idea of what I mean. Be doing a little drawing here. I made this one. Feel free to use it if you like, or just make up something else on your own. Whatever. Um, it's like say our universe. It's just our universe, and the idea is for our universe to be exactly the way it is, for us to live here, it's like one in some ridiculously high number. Like it's hundreds of zeros. And basically, if you're believing that, you're basically believing that planets and solar systems just materialize out of nothing due to random chance. It's on that level of unlikely, literally on that level of unlikely. Really, I could probably say whole galaxies showing up out of nothingness, complete with stars, planets, life forms, everything like that, just there. Snap a finger and there it is. M theory says that our universe is only one of an infinite number, which means no matter how unlikely a thing is, I mean, it could be one out of thousands of zeros. I mean, one followed by thousands of zeros. You know, like a one followed by two zeros is 100, and three is 1,000, where it just keeps going. Well, each one being only a tenth as likely as the one before, into the hundreds of zeros. It wouldn't matter if there was billions of zeros if you have an infinite number of universes, because no matter how unlikely, it still is not literally impossible. Therefore, it could hypothetically happen, just like materialization out of nothing, out of thin air, back into nothing, could happen. Each of these could represent a universe with its own laws that are different. So things that are impossible in ours are possible in that one. So even with the things that we would call impossible where we're at, may be possible with that one. So basically, you could be talking anything. I mean, anything. Like an animated universe could be real. You basically throw aside any notion of limiting things by your ideas. I mean, you're talking, what is it called? Imaginary, no, not imaginary time. That's a different thing. That's the same as eternity, and all encompassing now. Present tense that includes all the past, all the future, in its architecture, which is the same as eternity, just another word for it. Like it says, it's in the Bible. That says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity. And it says, Holy, holy, holy Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. That's eternity. That's imaginary time. They're one and the same. But that's another subject. But, well, not really, because this includes the architecture, includes all the past and future as well. Now, here's a way of looking at this. Each of these is a different universe with its own laws, its own everything, where it just is, because it's set up on laws, and those laws are such that things that can happen or can happen in another one can happen there, and they can impact on each other. One universe can influence another, and when two universes come together, collide, that is the energy in a big bang of yet another universe. M theory includes those ideas. Now, there's one thing I've noticed about this, that everyone that seems to talk about it is only referring to the material universes. They're just looking at them. Just looking at the physical material, whether it be in this universe or in another universe. They're not even paying attention to the imaginary material, except to refer to it as some potential. It's not a subject in itself, it's just a means to an end. And that's kind of wild, because it is the thing which holds it all together. this white void between universes, so to speak, that I have represented as one. And it could be whatever. It doesn't have to be white. It could be anything. It could be purple. I mean, orange. It could be blue. Not purple. It could be whatever color you might use to represent it. So long as I don't use black, because then I erase the partition and have to start over. But anyway, that's another thing. That's kind of silly, but what I'm referring to is these different universes. If you look at them, you realize that they're all connected in all their past and all of their future. It's all singular from the perspective of the in between. Really, it's actually more like the leaves of a tree. Each universe being leaves, or something which grows from within, because the in between is actually the source of all these universes. So if you were to look at it, you would have to say the architectural design of the in between, which is immaterial. When you look at just the physical universes, it's the same as trying to see God in a cup on a table. Place a cup on a table and look at it and see if you can see God. Of course not. Not an immaterial God, of course. Why? Because it's an immaterial God, and you're just using material. That's called rigged. It's rigged so that you would never actually see it. It's like a curtain over your eyes or something, blinders to prevent you from seeing anything. It may not be anyone's intent to do that, but that's just a result of it. Only looking at the material. Okay, I doubt these universes change like this, but I'm just changing some things. Different universes, different ways, all under the same super architecture. Now, this super architecture, which could be referred to as supernatural if you wanted to, because all these are natural. It's natural, it's natural, it's natural. The in between is the source of all. They grow out from it, just like the leaves on a tree. In that regard, it could be stated so. Now, what I'm saying is, these, all of their architecture is part of the architecture of this in between, the immaterial, this this potential for them, which overrides, or rather is higher level than them, because they come from it, not it from them. And therefore, it could be called supernatural. If you wanted to call these natural, then these are supernatural. It just it's just built into the circumstance. Now, if no matter how many of these you have, you can have an infinite number of them. A good way to do that would be to show what I'm recording with. Each of these, and whatever levels they may be, it's like the mirror effect. It just keeps going. They're all part of the same architecture. I could do that with a single one of them and show the different ones. But what I'm saying is, these universes are parts of something greater than themselves. That something which is greater than themselves is the thing that I'm talking about. Excuse me, the immaterial, which includes all of their architecture, all their past, all their future. So say, the power of, say, a bowling ball in one of these, or the weight, the mass, the energy, is a part of the architecture of this. And since each of these universes can be replicated infinitely, or infinitely represented, that bowling ball is infinite, and thus its energy, its mass, all of that is also infinite, which means that the architecture of the in between includes infiniteness of bowling ball, infiniteness of energy from that bowling ball, infinite of all of that. It's part of its architecture. It's just there. It just is. All of its past, all of its present, all of its future is part, present tense, of that infinite in between, which is the source from whence all of them come. It is their origin. Now, here's the funny part. This same idea would apply like to a person, to me. I could be saying this in Korean in some universe, or whatever language. Now, And I just removed one. That's because I made it the same color. If I were to do it with any of these, that would happen there too. That's because I made the outline with anything other than black. See, so if I made it all black, it would get rid of those. But here's the funny thing. These universes, they're in between. That same thing applies to personage. In all of its architecture, it still includes it. The thinking ability, or let's put it this way, more simple, consciousness. Consciousness of an individual is infinitely represented as well. So the architecture of the in-between includes infinite consciousness. It includes infinite awareness, which is basically the same thing, is the same thing. It includes everything, a personage, including the ability to think and the fact of being alive. So life is included in the architecture. Infinite life, infinite awareness, infinite whatever you choose to say. Whatever you choose to say that could exist in human or in any other life form in our universe or in any other universe. It is all that way. It is all so now, no matter how far in the past or future it may be. The universe, the universes, whether they are there, whether they are not there, because even then you're talking about the potential on a cosmic level, which is expressed by these forces imposing on the universe that we live in. Whether they are there or not, we have found by theory a realm of infinite possibility, of infinite potential. If you were to touch the hand of a human and try to evaluate it without realizing that you're looking at the hand of a human, what would you think? Would you think that you were looking at something of consciousness, looking at something of awareness, looking at something of life at first? Or would you just see something organic, which doesn't necessarily mean it's alive? It just means lifelike or similar in some way. I'll be loose about that. But about that one thing, but on that, life, living, desire, all those things are infinitely expressed in the multiverse, in this unending, unbeginning universe, or rather multiverse. It's not a single universe. Calling the universe, calling the multiverse a universe would be like calling a forest a blade of grass or an individual plant of any kind or tree. It would be all of them. Multiverse is everything. The universe includes, it's part of the multiverse. Now, if the multiverse were, even if the multiverse were different universes, there would be the consciousness between them, which, by the way, isn't really separated from them. It exists within them in all of its architecture. And it has its architecture, and that architecture includes every person that has ever been, or that is, or ever will be in any of these universes is included in the in between, the immaterial universe. What I'm saying isn't that M theory is right. M theory, by the way, is its name. Scientifically speaking, it can't be regarded as a true theory because it can't be disproven. Our technology just isn't there. But this is where the math seems to be leading. And it's either this, apparently, according to what we know, it's either this or that our universe is so impossibly precise that it couldn't have happened by pure chance. The likelihood is far beyond the notion of impossible. Most people's notion of impossible is only in like just a few tens of zeros at most. And even that is a lot. Impossible is probably somewhere around one out of nine, one followed by nine zeros or so. So it's somewhere like a one in a trillion chance of something happening. You basically just figure it's never going to happen. And if this is the universe, if this universe is all there is, then that means that reality only had one shot, one chance of getting it right, and it did. That would be somewhere around ridiculous. That's magical thinking. Oh, and I should say something. Let someone say, well, what you're saying is magical thinking because you're talking about a God. Well, no, that's completely different. The thinking there, I mean, even in the Bible it says, He made the heavens and earth by wisdom and understanding, which means even on God's level of interaction with things, or whatever you might call it from that perspective, it could hypothetically be done wrong. It doesn't just, He just decides that it's that way and therefore it is that way. It has to be done in a right way or it won't be accomplished properly. So there is underlying principle there. It isn't just waving a magic wand and therefore it is. Should find where there it is. Well, let me see how did it put it. You can actually just search this on YouTube, on Google, or whatever. Let's see. He made the heavens by His wisdom, and the earth by His understanding. It's that chapter, that Psalm in the Book of Psalms that keeps saying, "For His mercy endureth forever," again and again and again. If I'm remembering right. But anyway, you just search that. You should find that at least. Now, in other words, there is a principle. It could be done wrong, so it has to be done right. And like this, I think I did this wrong, but I can change it. First, I have to do this. Just make it all the same thing. Now, if I were to make it that color, that can correct it. But anyway, and make it bigger. I don't know if God would rather do this. I would imagine His accuracy would also be infinite. After all, He would have all of eternity to do any little act. I would imagine He'd eventually get it right. I could stay wrong all day. Just doing this. Oops. I have to make it bigger. I'll leave it like that. I'll just get rid of it all. Ha. Funny. That really gets rid of it all. Make it each color in turn, and it'll get rid of them. But anyway, while I'm doing this, the infinite universe, infinite possibilities, that is a different thing. I mean, if you were to make it in such a way that it can only be done a certain way, let me just close this. The fact of the matter is, let me start over. The universe can be made in a way that doesn't have life in it. Of course, we're living in one that does, apparently, because we're here. That's the common assumption, anyway. That's a joke. But anyway, let me stop with the anyway. There, completely fresh. I could have just. The universe is infinite. It's like the leaves on a tree. Each little part of it, each part of the universe, it's like the leaves on a tree, branches and all. But they're all connected to the center. I'm not trying to make a good picture. I'm trying to do it, keep up with my speaking. But anyway, excuse me. Anyway, leaves on this tree, each one being a universe, is still connected in the center to that universe. I mean, not the universe, but to the center of things, including our awareness. We're not aware, like Paul put it, speaking in the book of Acts, it says, in him we live and move and have our being. We're not separated from God. We're part of the, he's part of us, we're part of him. For we are also his offspring. Okay. Now, no matter how many infinites it goes out, it's still connected all of time, all of space, all of times and all of spaces, if you wanted to call it that way. Is a singular time, singular space, singular existence. And that existence, that time, that singularness includes consciousness. It includes every characteristic on every level, not just on the quantum level, but the whole of the architecture all throughout. If you're going to get a whole universe that could be different, certainly everything in that architecture of that particular universe is included, which includes the macro worlds of those universes too, not just the quantum level of consideration. So God would be one with all of that, and therefore the architecture would be included. Power of every supernova, the thinking of every genius, and of course of all the normal levels of other considerations would be part of the architecture. Infinite skill. So getting something right, whether God made an infinite number of universes or whether it's just a recognition of the potential of infinity in this, and whether something's been done or not, that has nothing to do with whether it's right. It doesn't have to be other universes for what I'm referring to be so. There could be, it wouldn't really hurt it, most likely, at least I know of no reason why it would. But I have a suspicion there aren't. At least they aren't connected to us in that have to way. But that's just me thinking it, not having a real reason that I'm saying here. But the idea, should have made some of these leaves different colors. The idea of if you would think the M theory is somehow disproves the need of a God. It doesn't. That would be a case of out of the frying pan into the fire of anyone who was looking to that as some type of a thing to say, see, you were wrong. No, it goes in the exact opposite way. I don't mean it's a bad thing for there to be a God. I'm just saying M theory is not an or. It's not M theory or God or M theory. When you look at M theory, you're basically looking at a notion of the architecture of God or anatomy or whatever of God like that. It's like speaking of a person just looking at their cells, just noting their cellular structure, not bothering with anything of consciousness or whatever, that kind of a thing. Well, with that, I guess I'll close it. But just realize that M theory is not anti-God. Okay, let's do this again with this. Imagine each being a different universe. And it just stretches on for infinity. The tiniest little finger tap is infinitely expressed. And of course, therefore, becomes infinite power in a finger tap. And with that, you can see the idea of skill, infinite skill. Any archery, any carpentry, infinitely expressed, and so on and so forth. Dot dot dot. or ad infinitum, say. Um, with that, goodbye. Stopping.